Hello, and welcome to the Kathleen Spracklin podcast. I am a woman on a mission to gather a cadre of writers, thinkers, and teachers who are transforming the world, one character at a time. And it all starts with one thing, a deep understanding of human motivation, why people do what they do, and the forces that drive them. To gain that understanding, I am mining the intersection of psychology, theology, and philosophy to make you a better writer. This is episode 94, Using the Zettelkasten Index. In this mini-series, we have been taking through an example that tracks making a bib card and a main card from Adler's book, How to Read a Book, and we were focused on chapter 5. And so last time we actually made our main cards, and now we're going to take a look at how did we figure out where that card should go. And to answer that question, we're going to take a look at the Zettelkasten Index and how it's created. An index card is an index is a set of alphabetic cards. I've got the letter N here for an example, and a very abbreviated one because it gets very tedious creating these things. My actual letter N runs to several cards. That's why you see the paren 1 here, is because that stack of cards will grow for each letter. And so this is an example of how I do my index. I do my index with the card address on the left, and then either if the card has a title, I might use the title, or if it has keywords associated with it, I'll use the keywords. Now, what I'd like you to notice about these keywords is that I'm on the card N. So there would be a temptation to say, well, I'll only write down note-taking because we're in the N's. But it turns out to be enormously valuable to have all of the keywords or the whole title of the card, because that helps you very quickly narrow down when there are several entries that are similar. Because remember, we are going to be going for placing our new card next to the most closely related card in the entire Zettelkasten. And the only way to determine that is by coming through the index and looking up the other cards that you have there. Sometimes the index entry will send you to a section, and you might not place the card right next to the one you found in the index, but the index might just get you right where you need to be, and it might be a slightly different card where you place it. So the things I want you to notice about the index is it's alphabetic, it has a card address, and it has a list of keywords or a title. There's one other thing in the example, which is a symbol. And if we make another pass at some time and go through some of the specifics and the details about the index, I'll share my collection of symbols with you. But I don't want to get too bogged down tonight, so we're just going to leave those right now. So when we went through with our main card, where we were trying to place the card about taking concept notes when we're reading analytically, we found note-taking at 3616.1, and that's the card that we ended up putting our card next to. Now, it's rather interesting to notice I've also taken an example, the letter M. Now, you notice in this case, note-taking was all by itself on the letter N, and we might then say, well, how on earth did that card end up next to 3616? And the answer is it was through the keyword memory that they both shared. 3616 was about self-referencing in memory, and 3616.1 was about using the technique of elaboration to enhance memory when doing note-taking. So now the note-taking is getting its new card, which is the one that we just added yesterday. So if we're going to add a new keyword now to our card, where we will want to put the keywords on our card. So here we are back at our card that we created in episode 93, and we have a number of keywords. We would certainly want the keyword around note-taking because that's what this is all about. We'd probably want a keyword for conceptual notes because that's the specific kind of note-taking that we're doing. And we would very likely want a reference to analytical reading because that's the kind of reading that you do when you are creating one of these conceptual notes. So now, how many index entries would we end up with this card? I would say that we are going to end up with 3, perhaps 4 different index entries. We will certainly want the note-taking index entry under N. We might think we want conceptual and notes, but we've already got note-taking, so we would probably just put under C for the conceptual notes. Again, each letter of the alphabet, we'd put the whole list so that we can bring to mind what card that was. And you'd be surprised how well you remember those cards when you put all of the keywords or the whole title. And then the next one would probably end up with creating entries in the letter A for analytical reading and under the letter R for analytical reading. And I do have some subtleties that we will come around another time and talk about some of the details and some of the picky things about indexes. For example, when the same keyword shows up again and again, it gets promoted to a card of its own. And that's one of the symbols that it gets, is its little diploma, shall we say. But we will save that level of detail for another occasion. So this answers the question, I hope, so I hope that takes care of the questions about, well, how did you know that you wanted to put this card near 3616.1? And the answer is the index, and it is a very, very vital thing. If you put a card into your Zettelkasten and you do not index it, then how will you ever find it again? If the answer is very simple because it's basically about the very same theme as the card in front of it, and the card in front of it is in the index, oh, okay, then that's fine. But if it's absolutely identical, why do you have another card that's just the same? So I won't go deeper on that. When in doubt, index, and index deeply, because it is your treasure. Your index box is every bit as valuable as the entire card file. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.